You ever stop and think about how your computer actually connects to a website? Well, it turns out it's kind of like modern dating. Seriously, there's an initial message, a confirmation, an established relationship, and yep, sometimes an unavoidable breakup. So let's dive into the fascinating world of TCP sockets and see how they play this whole digital dating game.
Welcome to Super Courseva. Unlock the secrets of the internet and master computer networking. Let's dive in.
Right. So that's the big question, isn't it? When your laptop wants to talk to a server halfway across the world, how does it break the ice? How do these two machines who are total strangers end up in a committed, data-exchanging relationship? So here's how we're going to break it down. We'll follow this whole relationship right from the beginning. First, we'll check out the digital dating scene to meet the players. Then we'll see how they go about making a connection and get to that coveted status of being in a relationship. Of course, we also have to cover the unavoidable breakup. And finally, we'll touch on how the rules are universal, even if the dialects are a little different. Okay, so before anyone can even think about asking someone out, we've got to get to know the players, right? And in the world of computer networking, there are two key terms that people mix up all the time. Now, this is a really, really important distinction. Think of a port as just an apartment number. It's a static address, like apartment 80 on a massive server building. But a socket is the actual person who opens the door to that apartment to talk to you. It's the living, breathing endpoint of the conversation. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. You can send data packets to a specific port number until you're blue in the face. But if there's no program, no socket actively listening on that port, you're literally just shouting at an empty apartment. Nothing's going to happen. The socket is what makes it all real. All right, we know who's who. So how do they actually get together? This is where it gets interesting. We're entering the handshake phase, which is basically the digital equivalent of sliding into someone's DMs and hoping you get a reply. You've probably heard of this. It's the famous three-way handshake. It all starts with the server in a listen state. It's single and ready to mingle. Then comes the back and forth of the first message, and if everything goes smoothly, they become established. Boom, it's official. First up is listen, and you gotta know this one's only for the server. It's just passively sitting there with an open socket on a specific port, basically waiting for a client to come knocking. It's not sending anything out, it's just listening, waiting for someone to say hello. And here comes our client. This is you trying to connect to a website. Your computer enters the SYN-ACK state. It sends out a little packet called a SYN packet that stands for synchronize. This is that first DM, that first message out into the void. And now it just has to wait for a reply. So if the server is actually listening, it gets that message and thinks, okay. It moves into the SYN_received state and sends a reply back, a SYN-ACK packet. It's basically saying, hey, I got your message and I'm interested too, but hold on, it's not a done deal yet. The server is now waiting for one last little confirmation from the client. And just like that, after that successful back and forth, the handshake is complete. They made it. They got past the awkward first messages, and now they are officially connected. This stable connection is the entire reason we went through all that trouble in the first place. And this is the whole point. We've reached the established state. Both the client and the server are in this state now, and it means the connection is live, it's stable, they are in a relationship. Now the good stuff, the web page, the video stream, the file download, can finally flow freely between them. But all good things must come to an end. Just like a lot of relationships, these digital connections aren't meant to last forever. Once the conversation is over and all the data's been sent, well, it's time for the unavoidable breakup. And this process is just as structured as the handshake was. So yeah, the breakup has its own little dance, a few key phases. It kicks off when one side decides it's done sending data. That's the fin wait state. Then we might hit this awkward phase called close wait before everything is finally resolved and the connection is officially closed. So how does this whole thing kick off? Well, when one side is totally done sending data, it sends out a fin packet. That's short for finish. This is basically the digital "we need to talk" text. The side that sent it now enters the fin wait state, waiting for the other side to acknowledge that the end is near. Okay, now this close wait state, it can be a little tricky. It's that awkward phase where your computer has gotten the "it's over" message from the other side, but your local app, like your web browser, hasn't quite let go yet. The analogy here is just perfect. The relationship is officially over, but one person still hasn't moved their stuff out. For any developers watching, this is a state you really want to keep an eye on, because if it sticks around too long, it could mean there's a problem. And finally, once both sides have said their goodbyes and released all their resources, moved their stuff out, the socket enters the closed state. It's done. Over. They are strangers again. The connection is completely terminated and no more communication can happen through that socket. So we've walked through the entire life cycle, right? From that first hello till the final goodbye. But there's one last little practical detail we need to cover. It turns out the names for all these stages aren't always exactly the same everywhere you look. Here's the key thing to remember. The rules of the game, the TCP protocol itself, they're universal. It's the same everywhere. But the implementation can be a little different. An operating system like Windows might use a slightly different name for a state than Linux or macOS does. So if you're ever troubleshooting a network connection and you see a state name that looks a little weird, don't panic. The underlying idea is almost certainly the same. You just need to check the local dialect for your specific system. And that's pretty much the whole story. It's kind of wild when you think about it. It really is a surprisingly human process, isn't it? From being single and looking to sending that first message, getting into a relationship, and then finally becoming strangers again. So the next time you open a web page or fire up an app, just take a second to think about it. There's this complex digital relationship being built and torn down in milliseconds, just for you. So, what stage are you in right now?